one of the things that you are also making a conscious choice about is staying intentionally small.
Truth.
And really great book, Small Giants. That was one of the ones that really just broke down a couple of really great stories of companies in choosing to stay small but stay highly successful. So you told I'd say a really great story that I'd say framed a lot of your choices. So yeah. I'd love for you. It seems like you came prepared.
Well, I just wrote it down so that I could tell it better than I did when we spoke last. Inside of my Moleskine in here, I have written "Remember the Fisherman," and so this is my daily reminder to remember the parable of the fisherman. This is a pretty old story, but one that I try and keep in the back of my mind as we're looking forward. And the parable of the fisherman is I think you know this story, but it's an investment banker is taking a vacation in a small Mexican fishing village, and he one morning meets a fisherman down at the dock, and he's got a pretty impressive catch, but it's kind of small. And he said, why don't you stay out longer? And he said, oh, I've got enough for my family, and this way I can have lunch with my wife, I can play with my kids, and I can have a nap, and then I can drink wine and play guitar with my friends in town this evening. I said, well, this is wildly inefficient. I'll help you. I'll help you really grow your business so you can get more boats and you can really expand the business and eventually take the business public and make millions and millions of dollars. And then the fisherman says, oh, wow. And then what? He said, well, then you can retire. And the fisherman says, okay. And then what happens? Well, then you can move to a small Mexican fishing village and you can fish a little, you can sleep late, you can have lunch with your wife, play with your kids, and play guitar and drink wine in the city with your friends. So, I try and keep the parable of the fisherman in mind about, as we're growing in the things that we're doing. I don't want to the relationships that we develop with our guests and the relationships we develop with our teammates. I don't want to lose the strength of those relationships as we grow. I want to that's something that I feel like is incredibly important for us to maintain. So I try and keep that in mind that there's a bandwidth limit, and so as we're looking at the next step, at the where we can go next, and the next project over here or out in this location or a different wholesale customer, a different market or whatever, will we be able to maintain those relationships in a way that feels authentic and meaningful for us, but also feels like and is serving them, because that is why we're in it. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's going back to the Stanifesto for a second. There's no point in not making a profit if you're not also making a difference. And so that's the difference that we're trying to make is having those relationships with people.
Well, I think something that is interesting about that fisherman story is, the investment banker is thinking in scale. Mm-hmm. And something that I think is really interesting about small business, and one of the reasons I love entrepreneurship and small business owners to the degree that I do, is because you have to really think about what you're doing, why you're doing it, what's made you great. And every decision to scale puts either a person, a bot, or a process in between those relationships.
Totally.
And so the more that you do that, the more distance that you get. And I think that that's one of the things that I love about the Small Giants sort of thinking is it's a choice to stay small, to stay highly connected to what you're doing,
right.
And highly connected to what made you great, rather than the scale and all of the separation that comes from that. Now, there's a whole lot of brilliance that can come out of something at scale, being able to maintain 100%. What made you great out of scale. But I really do think it takes a high degree of understanding of what your why is and what you're actually doing and what actually has made you great to make a choice to say, no, we're going to stay this size doing these things, and anything that gets in the way is actually detracting from our purpose.
Yeah, I think of it as friction.
Yeah.
Right? Like that is just friction between us and the customer, and that's that's not what we're shooting for, right?
Yeah.
And so I couldn't have said that better.